But let's move to the Democrats for a moment, because that's the question as to who's going to represent them in the fall against one of those two guys. I think it's going to be going into New York. Bernie Sanders has begun to close the gap on the polls, and we know that the polls underestimated. He overperformed in Wisconsin. This is a big deal, and we see Clinton, the Clinton campaign. There seems to be signs that they're getting a little bit worried, Farron.
Well, to be honest, they should be. Look, before Wisconsin, 5 days before Wisconsin, last Thursday, several polls were split. We had an Emerson poll that showed Hillary Clinton up by 6 points in Wisconsin. 5 days later, he wins by 13 points. I mean, that is a huge jump in just a few days. And since we still have a little over a week and a half before New York, look, anything is possible. I mean, that is the one thing we have learned from this campaign season, is that anything is possible. But the unfortunate issue here are the numbers. I mean, I went through earlier today and have kind of figured out who has what. And when you take superdelegates just out of the equation altogether, Bernie Sanders still has to win 69% of the remaining pledged delegates to clinch that magic number to get this nomination. 69%.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge. So unless we can
and
get
we should
those...
remind people why that number is so daunting is in the Republican side, there is a sort of, not totally, but primarily a winner-take-all dynamic with a lot of these primaries. On the Democratic side, there is a proportionality. And so to get 69% of the pledged delegates, you have to at least beat Clinton in these states by 40%. Right? 70-30 it has to be. I mean, so this is very difficult to have that type of gap.
It is. And so unless the Sanders campaign can start getting some of those super delegates, right now Hillary has 469 to Bernie Sanders 31. Unless they can get some of those super delegates to start switching sides, it is a tremendous uphill battle. Now, again, it is not impossible. I don't want people to think that I'm saying it's impossible. But these are the real numbers.
Right.
I mean, this is what we're looking at. With the pledged delegates, the super delegates staying where they are, Hillary Clinton can pull in 26% of the vote in every single remaining state and still clinch the nomination. That is a number that everyone needs to be aware of, and that's what super delegates do.
I will say this. This week we saw people like James Carville get out there and talk about and Clinton herself talk about how Bernie Sanders is not a real Democrat. And the fact is that for his entire career, he's been an independent. He's running in the Democratic race. Now, that argument, it would seem to me, is not terribly appealing to your average voter. They don't care. I mean, for a large extent, let's be honest, the Democrats' pitch has often been, you don't want a Republican to win. Well, that doesn't necessarily enhance the brand of the Democratic Party. But nevertheless, it may resonate with some people, but I think it probably doesn't resonate with that many. But the people who it does resonate with, of course, are the delegates, because they are necessarily involved in the Democratic Party. Now, so it was interesting to see that line of attack this week. It suggests to me that there is some, I don't know, I don't want to overstate this, but there is some nervousness that there may be some defections in terms of these delegates. But Farron, we're running out of time here. There was also some fascinating data about how voters in Wisconsin are far more willing to self-identify as liberal than they were in 2008 and in 2000. It's really interesting. For the first time, we have seen an ascendance, a majority of Democrats, or I should say a plurality of Democrats, identifying themselves as liberal as opposed to being moderate or conservative Democrats. That's a very, very positive sign that regardless of what happens with this election, future elections, the Democrats are moving to the left.